Chosen one, have you felt the sudden shift in the air? One day they were laughing, doubting, and mocking your journey. And now, everything has flipped overnight. Those who misjudged you are witnessing the divine reversal they never saw coming. This message has reached you at the perfect time, not by accident, but by divine appointment. You've walked through humiliation, rejection, and misunderstanding, and now heaven is revealing the truth of who you are. The energy has shifted, the tables have turned. The storm that once worked against you now works for you. Listen closely, because this message isn't just a reminder, it's confirmation. What was hidden is being exposed. What was delayed is now released. You've stepped into a new spiritual phase where divine justice moves swiftly and silently. Those who underestimated your calling will soon realize they were never fighting you. They were fighting the hand of God upon you. Chosen one, this word carries your proof of transformation. Comment 777 below if you can feel that change. Subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss what heaven is revealing next. And share this message with another chosen one who needs to awaken now. The moment everything flipped. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the entire atmosphere seems to shift in a single breath. What once felt heavy suddenly becomes light. What once stood against you begins to crumble. For so long you endured the silence, the mockery, and the doubt of those who couldn't see what was forming in the unseen realm. They thought your stillness was weakness. They mistook your patience for defeat. But heaven was only setting the stage for the divine flip, the reversal that happens when God decides the time has come. Everything began to move differently because the energy around you changed. The divine clock struck the hour of manifestation. Suddenly, doors that had been locked for years began to open effortlessly. People who once ignored your presence started watching your every move. Those who spoke your name with arrogance began to speak it with caution. The same ones who overlooked you are now quietly observing, wondering how everything changed so fast. They don't understand that when God flips a situation, it doesn't take months or years. It happens overnight. You see, the spiritual realm always moves before the physical world catches up. When the shift began, you probably felt it before anyone else did. A strange peace in the middle of chaos. An inner knowing that something was breaking open. That was the sign that your suffering had reached its divine limit. Heaven had seen enough. The battles, the betrayals, the late-night tears, they had all fulfilled their purpose. Every test, every delay, every rejection was an investment into your elevation. You were being refined, not denied. Those who stood against you had no idea what they were truly up against. They thought they were fighting a person, but they were fighting divine alignment. They thought they could delay your rise, but they were unknowingly pushing you toward your destiny. That's why when the flip happened, it caught everyone off guard. The same people who once used your name carelessly now whisper it with reverence. The ones who rolled their eyes at your faith now secretly study your resilience. The moment everything flipped was not marked by a loud announcement. It came quietly, like dawn breaking through the longest night. You didn't need to prove anything anymore. Your glow began to speak for you. The light of your transformation started to reveal the truth about everyone around you. Those who were for you became evident, and those who were against you could no longer hide behind masks. The energy of exposure was activated. God began separating real from fake, pure from polluted, destiny partners from distractions. Everything you lost began to make sense. Every season of waiting revealed its purpose. While you thought God was silent, He was rearranging everything behind the scenes. He was preparing a stage where your vindication could be seen without you having to lift a finger. The flip wasn't about revenge. It was about divine revelation. Heaven wanted the world to see that when it's your time, no opposition can stand. The ones who misjudged you are now realizing they were never dealing with an ordinary soul. You carried a calling they couldn't comprehend. Your energy was divine, your resilience supernatural. They couldn't destroy you because you were built on a foundation that human hands cannot touch. They tried to block your blessing, but the truth is, your blessing was never routed through them in the first place. The flip was God showing them, and you, that His plan doesn't require anyone's permission. Now everything around you is shifting to match your new vibration. The people who once drained your energy are fading away, replaced by those aligned with your higher calling. The places that once brought pain no longer have the same hold on your spirit. Even your thoughts are changing, no longer trapped in the cycle of waiting and worrying, but anchored in knowing. You've entered a divine flow where things are happening faster, smoother, more powerfully than ever before. And the truth is, they feel it too. Those who wronged you can sense the change, even if they won't admit it. The energy doesn't lie. Every false word spoken against you now echoes back to its sender. Every plot that was meant to harm you has been turned into a platform for your elevation. The shift is complete. The balance has been restored. You are no longer in the same dimension of energy that they tried to keep you in. Chosen one, understand this. The flip wasn't just a change in circumstances. It was a change in authority. You have stepped into a higher spiritual ranking. You've been upgraded not just in life but in frequency. The tests that once broke you now bow to your power. The storms that once terrified you now carry your message forward. You've become the evidence of divine justice, so don't be surprised when everything feels different. Don't question why the same people who once ignored your light are now drawn to it. It's the law of divine reversal. When truth rises, illusion collapses. And that's what's happening right now. You are living proof that God can change everything in one night, that what's written for you cannot be erased, and that those who misjudged you were only helping to write the story of your rise. The moment everything flipped wasn't random. It was heaven's response to your endurance. You held on long enough for the promise to manifest. And now, the world is witnessing what divine timing truly looks like. When they misjudged the chosen one, they thought they knew you. They looked at your silence and assumed weakness. They saw your humility and mistook it for fear. They judged you based on what they could see, never realizing that heaven was hiding you for a reason. Chosen one, they didn't understand that your low season was a divine disguise, that God had veiled your greatness so only time could reveal it. The people who misjudged you were never meant to see your value, not until the appointed hour when their perception would crumble before your transformation. When they looked at you, they saw an ordinary person struggling, not knowing you were walking through sacred preparation. They whispered, doubted, and mocked because your journey didn't make sense to them. They couldn't comprehend how someone so quiet, so reserved could be favored so heavily in the spirit. They thought your setbacks were proof of failure, but every delay was divine development. Every rejection they celebrated was actually heaven's redirection. They didn't realize that what they perceived as your ending was only your pruning, and pruning always comes before blooming. They misjudged you because they saw your process but not your promise. They measured your worth by what was visible, your job, your status, your current situation, never realizing that the unseen realm was already declaring your elevation. They mistook isolation for abandonment, not knowing that divine isolation is the womb of greatness. While they were talking, God was teaching. While they were laughing, God was lifting. You were being built in silence because the noise around you was too small to handle your becoming. Every chosen soul goes through a season of misjudgment. Even the greatest prophets and messengers were misunderstood in their time. You carried an energy that exposed hidden intentions, and that's why some people couldn't stand your presence. They didn't hate you for what you did. They resented you for who you are. Your light irritated their darkness. Your peace made them restless. Your kindness made their bitterness more obvious. And instead of reflecting, they projected. They projected their insecurities onto you, calling you names, twisting your motives, labeling your compassion as weakness. But the chosen are never defined by opinions. They are refined by opposition. Every false judgment was fuel for your transformation. Every betrayal was an initiation into higher discernment. You learned not to respond to everything. Not because you didn't care, but because you finally understood your value. You learned that silence can be more powerful than defense, that letting God speak for you will always be louder than proving your point. The same mouths that gossiped about your struggles will one day testify about your success. That's the divine irony of being chosen. When they misjudged you, they failed to see that God uses broken stages to reveal divine glory. They couldn't perceive the anointing because they were blinded by ego. They thought your detour was destruction, but God was simply protecting your destiny from premature exposure. Had they known who you truly were, they would have treated you differently. But heaven allowed the misjudgment to happen because it revealed hearts, purified your circle, and prepared your spirit for leadership. You needed to see who could walk with you without proof of the promise. Think back on those who walked away when you had nothing to give. Think about those who underestimated you because you were still healing, still growing, still finding your rhythm. Now those same people are realizing the one they dismissed carries the light they need. They're beginning to see that you weren't arrogant. You were anointed. You weren't lost. You were being led. You weren't struggling. You were being shaped. Their misjudgment didn't define you. It exposed them. There were times you questioned yourself, wondering if maybe they were right, if maybe you weren't meant for something greater. But look at you now. Still standing, still glowing, still rising. Their words couldn't curse what heaven had already blessed. Every lie spoken against you only increased your spiritual authority. Every attack taught you endurance. You learned that when you're chosen, misunderstanding comes with the territory. The more light you carry, the more shadows react. And that's why you were never meant to fit in, because you were sent to stand out. Now that the veil is lifting, those who misjudged you are experiencing divine reflection. They see their own deception in the mirror of your success. They thought you'd stay stuck, that you'd give up, that the fire would destroy you. But instead, it refined you into gold. God allowed them to watch so they could learn what happens when you touch a vessel that carries divine favor. Their opinions never had power because they were never written in your destiny. Chosen one, understand this. You were never overlooked. You were reserved. The misjudgment was necessary to protect your authenticity. Had everyone believed in you too early, pride could have entered. But rejection kept you grounded. Mockery kept you humble. Misjudgment kept you pure. And now, those same voices that once doubted your vision will be forced to acknowledge your transformation. Not because you proved them wrong, but because God proved himself faithful through you. The beauty of being misjudged is that it refines your discernment. You now recognize energy faster. You no longer chase validation because you've learned to walk in revelation. You no longer depend on applause because you've learned that alignment matters more than approval. You've discovered that divine recognition is far greater than human praise, so let them watch. Let them wonder how the one they dismissed became the one heaven endorsed. Let them see how everything they said you couldn't do is now unfolding before their eyes. Their misjudgment was the soil where your miracle grew. You were never behind. You were hidden. And now that God has revealed you, no opinion can undo what has already been ordained. This is your moment of divine vindication. Those who misjudged you are now witnessing the truth they tried to bury. The same mouths that cursed you will one day say, "They were chosen all along." That's the power of divine reversal. The chosen never stay misunderstood forever, because in the end, truth always reveals what the world refused to see. The divine reversal. There comes a sacred point in the chosen one's journey when heaven steps in and says, "Enough." That's the moment of divine reversal. When every wrong turns right, every lie folds under truth, and the spiritual tables flip in your favor. It doesn't come with thunder or noise, but with quiet precision. Suddenly, what was working against you begins working for you. Every delay becomes divine redirection. Every rejection becomes the reason you are redirected into destiny. And those who once thought they were winning at your expense begin to experience the same confusion they tried to cast upon you. The divine reversal is not about revenge. It is about justice, the spiritual kind that cannot be manipulated or avoided. It is heaven's way of restoring balance. For a long time, you endured hidden battles while others enjoyed temporary victories built on deceit. You were tested beyond measure, yet you did not retaliate. You stayed silent, prayed through pain, and remained faithful when no one was watching. God saw that. Every tear, every late-night prayer, every moment you wanted to give up, all of it was counted. And now, the divine scale has tipped. Those who misjudged you are now realizing the energy has shifted. The things they spoke against you are beginning to echo back into their own lives. Not because you wished harm upon them, but because the spiritual law of return never fails. Whatever energy one puts out, it must return, multiplied. You operated in love, and now love multiplies around you. They operated in jealousy and manipulation, and now that same vibration is unraveling their false foundations. Divine reversal exposes what was hidden and corrects what was twisted. When the reversal begins, you'll notice it subtly at first. Opportunities that once slipped away begin to return. People who ignored your voice start seeking your wisdom. The very places that rejected you now want your presence. This is not coincidence. This is divine alignment in motion. The same doors that were slammed shut are now opening effortlessly because they were never truly locked. They were simply waiting for the right frequency of your spirit. This shift doesn't only happen around you, it happens within you. You begin to think differently, walk differently, and attract differently. You no longer chase validation because your spirit remembers who you are. Your energy rises above petty warfare. The same situations that once broke you now bow to your authority. That's when you realize the reversal was never just external. It was a transformation of power, a reclaiming of identity. You've moved from victim to victor, from waiting to walking in fulfillment. The divine reversal is heaven's announcement that the hidden season has ended. For so long, you were concealed so your enemies could expose themselves. They thought your silence meant defeat, but it was strategy. While they were busy plotting, heaven was preparing your presentation. Now your elevation is their revelation. The light that covers you is undeniable. Every false story collapses under the truth of your transformation. This reversal also comes with exposure. Those who smiled in your face but spoke against you will be revealed. Those who pretended to support you but secretly hoped for your downfall will face their own illusions. Don't gloat, just watch how God orchestrates justice so perfectly that no one can question it. The same mouths that spread lies will speak blessings because divine order demands it. And yes, some will try to return once they see the shift. They will speak words like, "I always knew you'd make it," or "I was just trying to protect you." But you'll discern the difference now. You're no longer desperate for acceptance. You've grown into divine discernment. You know now that peace is more precious than presence. You can forgive without reopening the door. The divine reversal doesn't just elevate you, it liberates you. Every blessing that was blocked is being released. Every plot that was formed against you is collapsing under its own weight. The more they tried to suppress you, the higher heaven positioned you. It's like watching the spiritual laws of gravity reverse. What once fell apart now falls into place. The chaos they caused becomes the stage for your clarity. The humiliation they intended becomes the platform for your honor. Chosen one, this is your confirmation that divine justice is not delayed. It might have looked like you were losing, but you were only being positioned. Every loss carried a hidden instruction, every setback a secret upgrade. You are now walking into answered prayers that once felt forgotten. And the beauty is, you don't even have to announce your comeback. Your presence announces it for you. The glow they can't explain, the peace they can't disturb, the blessings that seem to follow you. That's divine reversal in motion. They can't mock you anymore because the evidence of your anointing speaks louder than their words. They can't ignore you anymore because heaven has placed your light on a hill that cannot be hidden. You have stepped into the era of undeniable proof. This is what happens when divine favor meets divine timing. Everything that once worked against you now works together for your good. The divine reversal is proof that God never forgets his own. You waited, you trusted, and now you're walking into the harvest of every seed planted in tears. The world will call it luck, but you'll know it's justice. You'll know it's heaven making a statement. This is my chosen, and I have flipped it in their favor. And from this moment on, every storm that once broke you will now bow to your peace. The same mouths that doubted you will have no choice but to confess. The hand of God was upon you all along. The humbling of the enemies. There is a silence that follows divine justice, and it is the silence of those who once mocked what they did not understand. The humbling of your enemies is not about their destruction, it's about revelation. It's the moment when heaven allows truth to rise so clearly that even those who denied you can no longer pretend not to see. Chosen one, you are witnessing that moment now. Those who once laughed at your struggle are falling quiet, because what they used to ridicule has become what they secretly desire. The same people who said you would never rise are now watching you walk in the very blessing they claimed you'd never reach. The humbling of your enemies begins subtly. Their words lose power. Their plans lose traction. The energy they sent to stop you circles back to its source, and suddenly their confidence fades. You don't have to fight, because the battle has already been settled in the spiritual realm. You simply continue walking in purpose, and heaven handles the rest. The same traps they set for you become the holes they fall into. The gossip that once spread like wildfire now burns their own credibility. This is divine law. Every false intention returns to sender when truth is revealed. They are being humbled not by your revenge, but by your elevation. Your glow is doing what no argument could. Your peace is preaching a louder sermon than your pain ever did. They see now that your silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. They thought you were ignoring them because you had no fight left, but in reality, you were letting God make the final statement. That's the most powerful response of all, allowing divine timing to speak where human pride tried to shout. When the humbling begins, it's not always public. Sometimes it starts privately, in the quiet of their conscience. They begin to feel the weight of what they did, the guilt they thought they had buried. They replay conversations in their minds, realizing how cruel their words sounded when they mocked your faith or belittled your dreams. That is the beginning of spiritual conviction. God doesn't embarrass to destroy, He exposes to transform. Some of your enemies will repent in secret because shame won't let them speak it out loud. Others will try to reappear in your life, pretending nothing happened, hoping to taste the peace that now surrounds you. And you, chosen one, must remember. This humbling is not for you to gloat over. It's for you to witness the fulfillment of divine order. You prayed for justice, and God delivered it, not through vengeance, but through balance. Every lie is collapsing under the weight of truth. Every curse they spoke over your life is now reversing into a blessing. The same voices that called you foolish are now learning wisdom through watching you. This is the difference between human pride and divine purpose. Pride falls, but purpose rises. Some of them will try to explain their behavior, saying, "I didn't mean it that way," or "I was just trying to help you see reality." But their words will sound hollow, because the evidence of divine favor is too clear to deny. You don't need to justify your calling anymore. The tables have already turned. The same stage they used to mock your downfall is now the place where God displays your restoration. The reversal is not silent anymore, it's visible. What's happening now is more than karma. It's correction. They are realizing that when you touch what belongs to God, you lose your own stability. The energy they used to push you down now pulls them toward their own awakening. The very storm they wished upon you has found its way to their doorstep, not as punishment, but as an invitation to humility. Because sometimes only broken pride can create a teachable heart. Understand this: your enemies are not your concern anymore. Their lessons are between them and God. Your focus is to remain grounded, merciful, and unbothered. The most powerful revenge is peace. The most divine response is distance. When you stop fighting battles that heaven has already settled, you rise higher than you ever could on your own. The humbling of your enemies is not your celebration. It's your confirmation that justice has been done. Watch how the ones who once doubted your anointing will now need your prayers. Watch how those who wished your failure will quietly hope you'll forgive them. That's what divine humbling does. It brings awareness through loss, revelation through consequence. God doesn't need to destroy your enemies. He simply removes his covering from them, and their own actions expose their true condition. What they built without integrity cannot stand in divine light. You'll start noticing their confusion, doors closing, plans falling apart, peace escaping them. And deep down, they'll know why. They'll remember the moment they crossed the line, the moment they spoke against a chosen vessel. But even in that, you must walk in grace. You are not here to prove superiority. You are here to demonstrate transformation. Your elevation is proof that God fights for his own. The humbling of your enemies is heaven's reminder that no one escapes divine order. Those who sow chaos will eventually reap it. But you, chosen one, were preserved not to boast but to bless. You were elevated so you could show the difference between ego and endurance, between manipulation and manifestation. Their fall is not your victory, your peace is. Their silence is not your applause, your purpose is. So stand firm and stay humble. Let your growth speak. Let your peace radiate. Let your progress remain the loudest sound in the room. Because when God humbles your enemies, he does it so they'll see what happens when you rise without hate and win without noise. And soon, the very ones who spoke against you will say, "Surely God was with them." That's divine justice in its purest form, quiet, undeniable, and eternal. Your silent season was preparation. There was a time when your voice went quiet, when the world seemed to move on without you. You wondered if heaven had forgotten your name, if all the waiting, all the tears, all the stillness meant your story had ended before it ever truly began. But chosen one, that silent season was never punishment. It was preparation. It was the sacred process where God stripped away the noise so he could tune you to his frequency. The silence that felt empty was actually filled with divine instruction. You weren't being ignored, You were being refined. In the silence, you learned who you were without validation. You discovered strength you didn't know you had. When doors stayed closed and friends disappeared, God was protecting you from distractions that couldn't survive your destiny. He hid you not because you were unworthy, but because you were still becoming. Every quiet moment was a chisel in the hand of the Creator, shaping your character, deepening your discernment, and sharpening your faith. You weren't stuck. You were being seasoned. You weren't forgotten. You were being formed. People looked at your life and thought nothing was happening. They couldn't see the growth taking place beneath the surface. Like a seed buried in darkness, you were germinating. The silence wasn't stagnation. It was sacred incubation. In that season, God disconnected you from people who could not go where you were headed. You lost friendships, opportunities, and even parts of your old self. But none of it was wasted. He was pruning away what could not bear fruit in your next chapter. That's why your prayers sometimes felt unanswered. Because you were asking for movement while God was working on your foundation. He wasn't withholding blessings, He was ensuring you could sustain them. If He had released your breakthrough too soon, you might have mistaken the gift for the goal. So He allowed silence to teach you surrender. He let loneliness teach you leadership. He used waiting to cultivate wisdom. During that silent season, you learned to hear God without the noise of approval. You stopped depending on applause and started trusting alignment. You realized that peace is louder than praise. You learned to rest in divine timing instead of rushing into temporary satisfaction. That's the kind of maturity only silence can build. And though it felt like nothing was changing, everything inside you was being reordered. Your heart, your habits, your priorities, your purpose. The people who misjudged your silence didn't understand that you were walking through divine training. They thought you gave up, but you were actually gearing up. They thought you were invisible, but heaven had you under construction. God was teaching you discipline, teaching you how to hear His whisper amidst chaos, how to move without seeking validation, how to love without needing recognition. You became dangerous to the enemy because you learned obedience in isolation. When you're chosen, God must first teach you how to carry His presence before He releases you into influence. That's what your silent season was for, to build capacity. You had to learn what it means to walk by faith when you couldn't see the way. You had to trust that even in stillness, God was working behind the curtain of time, rearranging circumstances and aligning opportunities that would manifest in divine sequence. Then, slowly, the signs began to appear. What was hidden started to surface. Ideas began flowing again. Peace replaced the confusion. Your spirit started to rise with quiet confidence, not arrogance. That's when you knew. The silence was lifting because the lesson had been learned. You had graduated from waiting into walking. You no longer needed constant confirmation because your spirit had matured enough to recognize divine direction. The beauty of the silent season is that it purifies motives. It shows you who's for you and who's only for what you can give. It exposes where your faith truly stands when everything external is stripped away. It's in that quiet place that you find your authentic self, not the version that seeks approval, but the version that seeks purpose. And once you've found that, no storm can shake you again. So when you look back, thank God for the silence. Thank Him for the times He said wait instead of go. Thank Him for the nights you cried but didn't quit. Because now every part of that process is bearing fruit. You walk differently. You speak with authority. You no longer chase what you used to beg for. That's the mark of transformation. Not that you gained more, but that you became more. Chosen one, you are now walking out what was built in private. Your glow is the proof of your growth. The peace you carry, is the evidence of your preparation. The same silence that once scared you is now your greatest strength. Because it was in that silence that God gave you strategy. It was there He taught you to move in wisdom, to discern energies, to recognize divine timing. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer panic, you pray. You no longer doubt, you discern. Everything you endured in silence prepared you for visibility. You can stand before the world now, not needing to prove anything because the fruit speaks for itself. You don't need to announce your return. Your presence announces it for you. The same people who once called you quiet will now call you chosen. They'll wonder how you did it, but you'll know. It wasn't you. It was preparation. Divine, deliberate, and perfect in timing. The silent season was never your downfall. It was your divine setup. The waiting was working. The stillness was strength in disguise. You were not forgotten, you were being fortified. Now you're ready. Not just to be seen, but to be sustained. Because what was built in silence will stand forever, and what was learned in isolation will carry you through every elevation that's coming next. The rise of the chosen. The rise of the chosen is not a loud event. It's a divine unveiling. It doesn't happen with applause or validation, but with a quiet shift in authority that even the enemy can feel. Chosen one, your rise began the moment you stopped seeking approval and started walking in alignment. Heaven has been waiting for this moment. The moment you finally realize who you are, what you carry, and why you were set apart. The world may have forgotten your name, but the spirit realm never did. Every battle you faced, every tear you cried, every night you questioned your worth, all of it was the furnace that forged your power. Now, as you rise, the atmosphere recognizes you. You've crossed the threshold from endurance to dominion. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you command. You no longer explain yourself because your presence explains everything. The same people who underestimated you will begin to feel a shift in your energy, not arrogance, but authority. You're no longer operating from survival, you're moving from purpose. Every word you speak now carries weight. Every step you take now shapes destiny. The rise of the chosen is the answer to years of divine silence. Heaven is amplifying your voice because you've proven faithful when no one was watching. You didn't compromise when temptation offered shortcuts. You didn't quit when life broke you open. That endurance has elevated your frequency, and now creation itself must respond to your anointing. The energy that once resisted you is now realigning to serve you. This rise is not just personal, it's prophetic. You are not rising alone. You are the forerunner of a generation awakening to its divine calling. Your victory is a signal that the season of the chosen has begun. So walk boldly, with humility, but with unshakable confidence. The light within you can no longer be hidden. The world is about to witness what happens when divine timing meets divine purpose. This is your moment. The moment heaven says, it's time. The rise of the chosen has begun, and no force in this world or beyond can reverse what God has already ordained. Divine revelation of truth. The divine revelation of truth arrives like dawn, breaking through the fog. For a long time, illusions ruled the atmosphere, lies were celebrated, masks were worshipped, and deception walked in daylight. But now, chosen one, the veil is lifting. The truth that was buried beneath manipulation, gossip, and misunderstanding is surfacing with divine force. You don't have to fight for exposure. Heaven itself is revealing what was hidden. Every false narrative, every twisted story, every deceitful word spoken against you is now unraveling under the light of truth. This revelation is not just about people, it's about purpose. God is unveiling why things had to happen the way they did. The betrayal, the delay, the rejection. They were never meant to break you. They were meant to reveal you. Through the pain, you discovered discernment. Through the silence, you learned stillness. Through misunderstanding, you found mastery. What once confused you now makes perfect sense because divine perspective has replaced human perception. The pieces fit now because you see from a higher dimension. Truth exposes, but it also liberates. It sets you free from the need to explain yourself. You don't owe anyone clarification when God Himself has confirmed your authenticity. Those who lied to control the story now face their own reflection in the mirror of truth. The very energy they projected is returning to them multiplied. This is not karma, it's correction. The universe is simply restoring divine order. And as truth rises, peace follows. You no longer chase closure, you create it. You no longer question your path, you walk it with clarity. What once felt like loss now feels like alignment. God didn't want you to defend yourself, He wanted you to be the evidence. And now you are. Your peace, your glow, your unshaken faith, they speak louder than any explanation. The divine revelation of truth is heaven's way of saying, the season of confusion is over. What's real will remain, and what was false will fade. You have entered the era where light reigns supreme, where nothing hidden can stay concealed. Stand firm, chosen one. The truth has found you, and it's setting your destiny free. When God closes their access, there comes a moment in every chosen one's life when God begins to separate, to shut doors that were once wide open, to silence voices that once echoed loudly, and to remove certain people who no longer align with where you are going. It can feel painful at first, confusing even, because you thought some of them would walk with you forever. But chosen one, understand this. When God closes their access to you, it is protection, not punishment. What you may see as loss is actually preservation. God saw what you couldn't see, their intentions, their energy, their hidden motives, and He chose to intercept it before it could contaminate your next level. Some people were only meant to be in your life for a season, to teach you a lesson or reveal something within yourself. But when that purpose is complete, heaven will begin to disrupt the connection. Suddenly, communication feels heavy. Misunderstandings increase, distance grows, and no matter how much you try to hold it together, it falls apart. That's not rejection. That's divine intervention. God is saying, they can't go with you where I'm taking you. It's not arrogance to let them go. It's obedience. You cannot carry yesterday's attachments into tomorrow's assignment. There were people who once had access to your time, your energy, and your spirit. They were comfortable feeding on your light, but were never meant to share your destiny. As your calling increased, their connection expired. God cannot elevate you while you're still entertaining energies that drain what He's trying to fill. And when He begins to close that access, He does it quietly. No argument, no explanation, no announcement. He simply shifts the energy until you realize that what once felt essential now feels heavy. That's your cue to release. The truth is, not everyone who started with you was meant to stay. Some were attached to your potential, not your purpose. Others loved the version of you that needed them, but now that you've grown, their spirit cannot relate to the new you. It's not that they changed, it's that your frequency evolved. The chosen are always evolving, always being refined. And every elevation demands a new level of separation. The higher you go, the fewer voices can follow. When God closes their access, don't fight it. Don't chase what He has already dismissed. You'll only delay what's waiting ahead. Instead, trust that this disconnection is divine direction. Every person removed from your life makes room for divine replacements. People who are aligned with your mission, who pray for you instead of preying on you, who protect your name in rooms you'll never enter. God will never subtract without multiplying later. He will never take without the intent to restore better. Sometimes those who lose access to you will try to reappear, drawn not by love, but by curiosity. They'll want to see if the door is still open, if your spirit still entertains what it has outgrown. But this time, your discernment will speak before your emotions do. You'll feel the shift instantly. Their energy won't fit anymore. That's how you'll know healing has happened. The old connection doesn't match your new vibration. Chosen one, do not mourn what God has moved. Every exit was written for your evolution. You asked for growth. This is what it looks like. God is not being cruel. He's being strategic. You were never meant to stay surrounded by those who couldn't handle your anointing. When He elevates you, He isolates you, not to break you, but to rebuild you. So walk forward with peace. The doors that closed were never meant to trap you. They were meant to guide you toward your destiny. And when you look back, you'll thank God for every disconnection that didn't make sense at the time, but later proved to be your greatest deliverance. When God closes their access, it's not the end of connection. It's the beginning of clarity. You're not losing people. You're gaining alignment. The energy of redemption. The energy of redemption is one of the most powerful forces a chosen one will ever experience. It's the divine current that takes everything broken, misused or misunderstood and transforms it into beauty, strength, and purpose. Redemption is not just forgiveness, it's restoration. It's God reaching into the ruins of your past and rebuilding what others thought was beyond repair. Every pain, every mistake, every season of wandering now becomes fuel for your divine assignment. You see, chosen one, redemption carries a frequency that shifts everything it touches. It reclaims your name from gossip, your peace from chaos, your worth from neglect. It's the moment when heaven whispers, what was lost is found, and what was stolen will be returned, multiplied. The very experiences that once shamed you now become testimonies that set others free. You no longer hide from your story. You walk in it with power. This energy doesn't just cleanse, it activates. It restores your spiritual confidence, heals your emotional scars, and awakens your creative purpose. The same people who counted you out will be forced to witness your renewal. They'll see how divine grace rewrote your ending. Because when God redeems, He doesn't just fix what's broken, He transforms it into something greater than before. Chosen one, you are walking proof of redemption's power. Your light now carries depth. Your peace carries history. You have been made new, not by erasing your past, but by sanctifying it. The energy of redemption is your resurrection, silent, strong, and unstoppable. Every scar now glows with purpose. Every loss now sings of divine love. And as you rise, the world will know God never wastes anything that belongs to the chosen. The new chapter of purpose. Every chosen one reaches a point when the past no longer fits. Not because it was evil, but because it has fulfilled its purpose. You've walked through pain, isolation, exposure, and transformation, and now heaven opens a new chapter, the chapter of divine purpose. This is not a repeat of old seasons. This is the unfolding of everything you were being prepared for, the confusion, the silence, the heartbreak. They were all chapters of becoming. But now, you stand at the threshold of your calling. The page has turned, and your story reads differently now. The new chapter of purpose begins with clarity. You're no longer searching for meaning in chaos, because now you understand that everything had meaning. Every betrayal refined your discernment. Every closed door redirected your path. Every delay built your endurance. You've been trained in the unseen, not by men, but by the hand of God Himself. And because of that, your steps now carry divine precision. You don't move out of desperation anymore. You move out of revelation. In this new chapter, purpose becomes your compass. You don't chase validation. You chase vision. You no longer settle for survival when you've been designed to lead. The people you attract now will mirror your mission. The opportunities that come your way will align with your authenticity. You'll find yourself walking into rooms you didn't even apply to enter because grace opened the door before you knocked. That's how divine alignment works. When you stop forcing, everything begins to flow. This chapter will not be crowded. Not everyone can accompany you here, and that's okay. Purpose requires peace, not popularity. The silence that once felt like exile now becomes your sanctuary. You no longer crave the noise of recognition. You crave the stillness of divine instruction. The closer you walk with God, the more your spirit hungers for simplicity. You understand now that real success is not found in applause. It's found in alignment. You've become a carrier of light, and your very existence now serves as a message. Your presence shifts atmospheres. Your words heal. Your example teaches. You don't need a platform to be powerful. You are the platform. The same voice that once trembled in uncertainty now speaks with authority. The same eyes that once cried in pain now see with prophetic clarity. The version of you that doubted your worth has been buried, and in its place stands a vessel of purpose, unshaken and unashamed. In this new chapter, obedience will be your greatest strength. You'll move when God says move, even if the path looks unfamiliar. You'll say yes before you see how. You'll trust even when you don't understand. Because now you know that divine instruction always leads to divine impact. The same God who sustained you in silence will now sustain you in service. This is the season where your calling becomes your lifestyle, and your life becomes your testimony. And make no mistake, the world will notice. Your rise will not come through striving, it will come through surrender. The glory upon you will speak without introduction. You will walk in rooms that your ancestors prayed for. You will break cycles that once bound generations. You will carry the weight of wisdom that only experience can teach. And when people ask how you did it, you'll simply say, "It wasn't me, it was purpose." Chosen one, this is your divine assignment. The old chapter closed with lessons. This one begins with leadership. Walk boldly, walk humbly, walk with heaven's authority. You are no longer waiting for your time. Your time has arrived. The new chapter of purpose has begun, and creation itself is standing still, waiting to see what God will do through you next. Conclusion and final message. Chosen. 1. Everything you've endured, every heartbreak, every misunderstanding, every night you cried out in silence, has led you here. The tables have turned. The energy has shifted. What once worked against you now works for you. Those who misjudged you have been humbled, and every secret battle you fought in the dark is now manifesting as divine favor in the light. Nothing was wasted. Not a single tear, not a single delay. Everything served its purpose in shaping the warrior of light you have become. This is not just another season. This is your confirmation that the prophecy has come full circle. You have stepped into divine justice, divine clarity, and divine alignment. The same God who watched you suffer in silence is now exalting you in public. You were hidden for a reason. Now you're being revealed for a purpose. The world will not see what you lost. They will see what you became. And that is your victory. You don't need to chase anything anymore. You attract everything that belongs to you because your energy is finally aligned with heaven's frequency. You've learned to forgive without bitterness, to love without fear, to walk without explaining yourself. That is spiritual maturity. That is divine authority. Every word that once wounded you now testifies on your behalf. Every closed door was simply God's way of guiding you home to your purpose. Chosen one, this is your moment of peace. You've passed the tests. You've survived the pruning. Now, walk boldly into your promise. Speak life into your path and carry this truth wherever you go. No one can stop what God has started in you. You are the living evidence of divine reversal, proof that light always wins and that truth always rises. If this message resonates with your spirit, comment 444 as a declaration that your new season has begun. Subscribe and share this message with another chosen one who needs this confirmation right now. Your story isn't ending, it's evolving. Stand tall, shine bright, and remember, you are not finished. You are just being revealed. This is your divine awakening, and the best is yet to come.